Question 1. Using the fact that 6.7 times 52 is 348.4, work out the value of 6.7 times 520. Well, 6.7 stayed the same. 520 has got 10 times bigger, so my answer will get 10 times bigger, 3,484. Here, 67 has got 10 times bigger, but 52 has got 100 times smaller. So the overall effect of that would to make my answer 10 times smaller. So the answer is 34.84. Here, 3,484 has got 10 times bigger, and I'm dividing that by a number that's got 10 times smaller. This will have the effect of making the answer 10 times bigger also. So I need to make it 100 times bigger altogether. So the answer will be 670. Question 2. Karen got 32 out of 80 in a maths test and 38% in her English test. Karen wants to know which one was a higher percentage. Again, this is an asterisk question, so it's really important we write this final sentence here. So 32 out of 80. To convert that to percentage without a calculator, I would cancel that down to 8 out of 20, which I can then multiply back up to 40 out of 100, which is 40%. So she did better in maths. Question 3. Here are the heights in centimetres of 18 children. Show us information in an ordered stem and leaf diagram. Now, you've been left all this space to write these numbers out in order. However, I just circled all the ones in the 80s, 90s as I went along and crossed them out. So you can use that space for that. I've used a key of putting the tens in the stem and the units as the leaf. So here, all the 80s, the 84, the 88 and 89 will be written like this. All the 90s will be written like this. 102, 103, 106, 108 will be written like that. 110, 115 like that. 3 marks. Question 4. Kalinda buys X packs of currant buns and Y box of ice buns. There's 6 currant buns in a pack, 8 iced buns in a box. Kalinda buys a total of T buns. Write a formula for T in terms of X and Y. Well, if there are 6 currant buns in each pack, we need 6 times X, the number of packs, and 8 times Y, the number of boxes for that. So T will be 6X plus 8Y. Question 5. Solve the inequality 6Y plus 5 is greater than 8. Well, to start with, I will take 5 off both sides, so I get 6y is greater than 3. And then divide by 6, I get y is greater than 0.5. Part B, here's an inequality in X shown on a number line. Write down the inequality. Well, it goes from -3 to 4. Because it's in an empty circle, it doesn't include -3, but this coloured in circle means it does include 4. So I will have X is greater than -3, but less than or equal to 4. Question 6. Steve wants to put a hedge along one side of his garden. He needs to buy 27 plants for the hedge at a cost of £5.54 and has £150 to spend. Does Steve have enough money? Well, I've converted this to 554, do it in pence, times by 27, and I've used the column method. And that will give you this amount, which is £149.58. The final mark here is for saying yes, he does, because it is an asterisk question. Question 7. The diagram shows the plan of a floor. The area of the floor is 138 metres squared. Work out the value of X. The problem here is that this value here, we don't have it. It's just called X. To work out the area of this floor, I've split it into 2 rectangles. You could have split it across here as well, but I chose to do it this way. This rectangle will be 8 times X, which is 8X. And this one will be 11, which I got from 8 and 3 together. And this one will be 15 minus X. So 11 times 15 minus X is 165 minus 11x. If we add these two together, we can put it equal to 138 because we know the area of the floor is 138. We get this. 8x minus 11x is minus 3x. I can then take 165 from both sides. I get minus 3x is minus 27. Divide by minus 3, I get x is 9. Question 8. ABC is parallel to EFGH, GB is equal to GF, and angle ABF is 65 degrees. Work out the size of the angle marked X. Give reasons for your answer. That's the important part here. So at each stage, there are 4 marks for this question. There are 4 stages. I've written the answer that I've used and the reason. So the first one I've done is that BFG, so this angle here, is 65 degrees because it is alternate to ABF, the one that I had originally. I can then use the angle FBG, so this one here, is 65, because the triangle BFG is isosceles. We were told that these two sides are the same. and base angles are equal in an isosceles triangle. Question 3, angle BGF, so BGF is 50 degrees because angles on a triangle up to 180. So using this triangle, 180 take 65 is 50. And then X we can say is 130 because angles on a straight line up to 180. And 180 take away 50 is 130. Question 9. Jack wants to find out how far people live from their nearest supermarket. He uses this question on a questionnaire. Write down 2 things wrong with this question. Well, first of all, the boxes overlap. So the 2's in both of those boxes, the 3's in both of those. And the second thing is that there are no units of distance in the option boxes. So we don't know if that's 2 kilometres or 2 miles or etc. Part B. Jack also wants to find out how often people go shopping. Write a question that could help him do this. So I've put how many times do you go shopping, and the important bit is a time frame. So here I've put per week, per day or per month, etc. will be fine. And then some option boxes that don't overlap will cover all possible options. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and then a 4 plus. Question 10. Use a ruler and a compass to construct the perpendicular from the point C to the line AB. You must show all your construction lines. Well, the first problem here is that C is not over the middle of the line. If it was, we could just do a normal perpendicular bisector. The way we do this is we put our compass at C and we open it up below the line. Now I've chosen to go right to the end of the line at A. And then I've drawn this arc in here, and this creates a new line from here to here. On that new line, I can then put my compass there and draw this arc in like a perpendicular bisector, and then put it also here and draw this arc in, which gives me this line for the perpendicular bisector. The green line is the line that they're after. Question 11. Ria is going to buy a caravan. The total cost of the caravan is £7,000 plus 20% VAT. Ria pays a £3,000 deposit and the rest in 6 equal monthly payments. Work out the amount of each monthly payment. Well, first of all, we need to add the VAT on. So 10% of 7,000 is 700. So 20% will be 1,400. So the total cost of the caravan will be 8,400. She's paid a £3,000 deposit, so we take that off, we get 5,400. And then divide that by 6 to get the equal payments. 5,500 divided by 6 will be 900. 4 marks. Question 12. Factorise 3e squared plus 5e. Well, nothing goes into 3 and 5, but there is an e in both of them, so we could pull a factor of e out, and then we would need 3e plus 5 to get back to that. Solve this equation. The first step that I would use is to expand the brackets. So 7 times k is 7k, and 7 times minus 3 is minus 21. This side we can just leave alone for now. I am then going to subtract the smallest amount of letters off both sides. So take 3k off both sides. I get 4k minus 21 equals minus 5. And then divide both sides by 4. I get k is 4. Part C, expand and simplify this. Well, we need to do everything in the first bracket times everything in the second bracket. So 2x times x is 2x squared. And 2x times minus 8 is minus 16x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times minus 8 is minus 24. And if we put the x's together, we get 2x squared minus 13x minus 24. Part D, solve this equation. Whenever you've got a fraction in an equation, I will get rid of it. So to get rid of that dividing by 4, I can times both sides by 4. And I get 7 minus 3f equals 8. I'm then going to take the 7 off both sides. I get minus 3f is 1. And then divide by minus 3, I get f is minus a third. Question 13. Express 180 as a product of prime factors. To do this, we can use a factor tree. I've split it up into 18 and 10, but there are plenty of options that you can do for that. 18 will then be 3 and 6. 3 is prime, so I've circled it. 6 will then be split up into 2 times 3. Again, they can be circled because of the prime. And 10 can be split up into 2 times 5. So altogether, you get 2 squared times 3 squared times 5. Martin thinks of 2 numbers. He says the highest common factor of my 2 numbers is 6, and the lowest common multiple of 2 numbers is a multiple of 15. The important bit there is that it's not actually 15. It could be 15, 30, 45, etc. Write down 2 possible numbers. So I would always use 6 as my first number probably, and then to get a, because that will give me the highest common factor, and then another number in the 6 times tables. To get a multiple of 15 to be the lowest common multiple, it would have to be 30 then, so 6 and 30. You could equally use 12 and 30 and many other options as well. Question 14. Sue has a full 600ml bottle of wallpaper remover. She's going to mix some of the wallpaper remover with water. Here's the information on the label. Sue is going to use 750ml of water. How many millilitres of wallpaper remover should she use? Well, if we use the instructions on the label, a quart of 600ml is 150ml. So she will need 150 millilitres with 4,500 millilitres of water. She only wants to use 750ml of water, so we need to divide that by 6. I worked that out by counting up in 750s. So 750, 1,500, 3,000, 4,500 is 6 times. So if we divide that by 6, we get 25ml. Question 15. The students in a class kept a record of the amount of time in minutes they spent doing homework last week. The table shows information about the amount of time girls spent doing their homework. Draw the box plot for this information. Well, a box plot starts with the lowest amount, so 60. You'll notice that there are 2 squares per 10. Every square represents 5. So I need to draw a line at 60. We don't have the maximum amount of time spent, but we do know that the range is 230. So if we add 230 to that, we get 290. So we need to draw the upper line here at 290. The median is at 170. So there's 160, 170. There. The lower quartile is at 100. And the upper quartile is at 220. So 210, 220 there. We can then draw a box in from our upper quartile to lower quartile and join up our median, our box, sorry, with the least amount and the maximum amount. So this is for the girls. The box plot below shows information about the boys spending time on their homework. Compare the amount of time that girls spent doing their homework with the amount of time boys spent doing their homework. The key here is there are 2 marks, so we need to mention 2 things. The first thing we should mention are the averages. So if we look at the median, which is the average, we can see that boys spent more time on that. So you would write, on average, boys spent more time on their homework. It must be in context. So you can't just say that the median is higher. It must be that they've spent more time on their homework. So that's the first mark. The second mark can be for commenting on either the range or the interquartile range. Well, the range for the girls goes from 60, well, it's 230. And for the boys, that goes from 40 up to 250, which is 210. So the boys are a shorter range, which means they're less spread out. So the boys have a more consistent range. That word consistent is really important. Question 16. There are 200 workers at a factory. The cumulative frequency table gives information about their ages. On the grid opposite, draw the cumulative frequency graph for this information. Just be wary, they've already added these up for you. There are 200 workers, it already adds up to 200. You don't need to do that part of the cumulative frequency bit. But what you should be doing is plotting 25 with 20, 70 with 30, 138 at 40, etc. And that should give you these points here. And then you join it up with a nice smooth curve. Graham says 10% of the workers at the factory are older than 65. Well, if we go to 65 on our graph, we go up, we can read off that there are 190 staff that are 65 or younger. That means that there must be 10 that are over 65. 10 out of 200 staff is 5 out of 100, which is 5%, so no is wrong. Question 17. This is a regular octagon. This is a hexagon. JK is a line of symmetry. That's really important because it tells us that these angles here must be equal to these angles here. Work out the size of the angle KFE. So I've marked that X so I know which one I'm after. To be able to do that, and first of all, need to work out what this angle is, this angle and this angle, so I can take them away from each other. So to work out this angle, I've used the fact that external angles in any shape add up to 360. So in an octagon, we do 360 divided by 8, which will give us 45 degrees for this external angle. And therefore, take that off 180 because it's a straight line. This must be 135 degrees here. I can then work out the internal angles of a hexagon. You take 2 off the number of sides and times it by 180. So they should add up to 720. The reason I've had to do that is because it's not a regular shape. So all these angles in the hexagon should add up to 720. So if I take the two 140s off and share the remainder between these four angles here, I'll get what these angles are. So 720 minus the two lots of 140, I divide it by 4, because this angle here must be 110. So if that's 135 and that's 110, take them away from each other, I get 25 degrees, the angle that we're after. Question 18, ABCD and AEFG are mathematically similar. Work out the size of the length of AB. So we're after this entire side here. Well, if we take the bases of these, this is 12 and that's 18. So the scale factor is 18 divided by 12, which is 1.5. So the bigger one is 1.5 times bigger. This side on the smaller one is 5. So if we times that by 1.5, we'll get the length of the full side of AB, which is 7.5. AEFG has an area of 36 centimetres squared. Work out the area of the shaded region. So the smaller one is 36 centimetres squared. The scale factor for the length was 1.5. So if the scale factor of the length is 1.5, we need to square that to get the scale factor for the area. So 1.5 squared is 2.25. 36 times 2.25 is 81. So the entire thing will have an area of 81. But we need to take away the area of the smaller one to get the shaded section. So the answer will be 45. Question 19. Complete the table of values for y equals 4 over x. Well, 4 divided by 0.5 would be 8. 4 divided by 4 would be 1. 4 divided by 5 is 4/5, or 0.8. And 4 divided by 8 is a half, or 0.5. If we plot these on the graph, just be very careful. Each part is 0.2. Each little square is 0.2. So plot these very carefully and draw a smooth curve through there. Question 20. The diagram shows a solid shape. The solid shape is made from a cylinder and a hemisphere. The radius of the cylinder is equal to the radius of the hemisphere. The cylinder has a height of 10 centimetres and the curved surface area of the hemisphere is 32 pi centimetres squared. Work out the total surface area of the solid shape, giving your answer in terms of pi. Well, the surface area of a sphere is given by 4 pi r squared. So if we half that for the hemisphere, that will give us the area of, the surface area of 32 pi. If I then do 4 divided by 2 to get the 2, I can cancel the pi out of both sides. I get 2r squared is 32. Therefore, r squared must be 16, and the square root of 16 is 4. So the radius of these circles must be 4. I can then use that to work out the curved area of the cylinder. So I need to do 10 times the circumference of that circle. The circumference of the circle is given to by pi times d, the diameter. So the radius was 4, so the diameter must be 8. So pi times 8 times 10, which was the height, will give us 80 pi just for the curved surface area. We've also got the bottom to add on, which is a circle. So we do use pi r squared, so pi times 4 squared is 16 pi. And if we add that and that to the 32 pi, we get 128 pi centimetres squared. Question 21. Expand and simplify this, giving your answer in the form a plus b root 2. So we have to do everything in the first bracket times everything in the second. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times minus root 2 is minus 1 root 2. Root 2 times 3 is 3 root 2, and root 2 times root 2 is just 2. Sorry, minus 2. If we simplify that through, 3 take away 2 is 1, and 3 root 2's take away 1 root 2 is plus 2 root 2. Question 22. Simplify fully 3e to the power 0. Well, anything to the power 0, even if it's in algebra, is always 1. Simplify fully this to the power of minus a half. Here we're tested that we know that a minus means to find the reciprocal. So I've flipped this upside down to find the reciprocal. And then the power of a half means to square root it. So the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of y squared is y. The square root of 64 is 8. And the square root of x to the 6 is x to the 3. So this will be the final answer. Part C. Write this as a single fraction in its simplest form. Well, to take fractions away from each other, we need a common denominator. The common denominator here will be x minus 3, x plus 3. So to get that, we need to times top and bottom of this by x plus 3. We get 5 brackets x plus 3. And top and bottom of this one by x minus 3. So we get minus 4 brackets x minus 3. If we expand those out, we get this. And then simplify that down, we get x plus 27 over x minus 3, x plus 3. Question 23. Paul has 8 cards. There is a number on each card. Paul takes at random 3 of the cards and he adds together 3 numbers on the cards to get a total T. Work out the probability that T is an odd number. Well, first of all, we need to think about how we can get an odd number. We can only get an odd number if all 3 that we're adding together are odd, or if 1 out of the 3 is odd. I've then done a tree diagram to help me out. So odd and even at each stage is I've put on my tree diagram. And I've only worked out the ones that I need. So odd, odd, odd. The first card will be 6 out of 8 because there are 6 odds out of 8 altogether. I've then got to reduce both of those by 1 because there'll be 1 less odd card and 1 less card altogether. And again, reduce them by 1 for the last one. And we multiply those together, we get 120 over 336. We don't need to work out this one because that will give us an even answer, and so would this one, so we can miss that one out. But here, 1 odd and 2 evens. If I pull an odd out first, it'd be 6 over 8 for that probability. I would still have both evens out of 7 cards for that one, and then once I've taken an even out, I'd only have 1 even out of the 6. So multiply those 3 together, I get 12 over 36. Follow this route, even, odd, even, you'd have got 2/8 times 6 sevenths times 1/6, which again is 12 over 336. Or we could go even, even, odd, which is 2/8, 1/8, 1/7, and 6 out of 6, because all the odds will be left, which will give us 12 over 336. If we add those 4 together, we get 156 out of 336. Question 24. A is the point with coordinates 1, 3, and B is the point with coordinates 4, -1. The straight line L goes through A and B. Is the line with equation 2y equals 3x minus 4 perpendicular to line L? Well, to find out if they're perpendicular, we need the gradients of both of these lines. So for line L, we do the difference in y divided by the difference in x. So 3 take away -1 is 4, and 1 take away 4 is -3. So the gradient of the line L is -4/3. The gradient of line 2y equals 3x minus 4, we need it in the form y equals mx plus c, so we need to divide through by 2. So we get 1.5 x minus 2, or 3 over 2. So the gradient of this one is 3 over 2. Now, we can see straight away that these aren't perpendicular, because to be perpendicular, these have to be the reciprocal of each other and the opposite sign. So even though it's the opposite sign, that would have had to have 2/3 as its gradient. However, we should do a little test. So the test is multiply these 2 gradients together, and it should give you -1 as your answer. So if you times these 2 together, we actually get -2, so no, they're not perpendicular. Question 25. The diagram shows part of the curve with equation y equals f of x. The coordinates of the minimum point of the curve are 3 minus 4. Write down the coordinates of the minimum point of the curve with equation y equals f of x plus 3. Well, the plus 3 moves the curve up 3, so that will give me coordinates 3 minus 1. For y equals f of 2x, if it's 2x, it means that all the y values will be achieved half as early for the x values. So we need to half the x value. So we get 1.5 and -4 for the y. And then finally, y equals f of minus x will just be a reflection in the y-axis, because we'll get all the same values for y when we've got the minus values for x. So it'll be -3, -4.